Hey everybody, it's ComletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'm going to be playing the Phyrexia All Will Be One Limited Arena Open. This is the Day 1 event. The entry fee is 5,000 gems or 25,000 gold. For the entry fee, no matter what, we'll get a Phyrexian Text Elesh Norn Mother Machines card style. And if we get 7 wins before we get 3 losses, we will get qualification for Day 2 of this event, which is where all the prizes are. As you can see, even if we get a 7-win run, we're only getting 5,000 gems back, so the most we can hope for Day 1 is to get our entry fee back, but during Day 2, that's where all the prizes are. Tons of gems on the line, and if we can get a really nice, really high win rate run during Day 2, if we can make it to the second draft of Day 2, then we can be eligible for up to $2,000 in cash prizes. So a very competitive entry-level event here, the most competitive event you can get into without having to qualify for anything just by signing up for the Arena Open Day 1. If you do really well, this is the most competitive event on Arena. So without further ado, let's just bust open these packs, hopefully open up some sweet stuff, and just play some competitive Phyrexia All Will Be One Limited. Alright, these rares are pretty subpar. The Arena Open Day 1 event that I am playing in is best of 1, so we don't really have time to dirtle around with some slower cards that would be like really good out of the sideboard and slower matchups. This is a pretty aggressive format, the most aggressive limited format ever on Arena. So Conduit of Worlds is a card that, while can be powerful in a long board stall, is very much a double-edged sword where you could play this in a matchup where your opponent is just beating you down early in the game and you're just never going to have time to spend 4 mana on something that doesn't immediately impact the board. So I'm not into the Conduit of Worlds. Mirran Safehouse is literally completely useless. Copperline Gorge is just a dual land, which is not what you want out of the rare slot. And our other rares aren't even that bomby. Green Sun's Twilight can help us dig for the best creature in our top 5 or 6, but the power level of this card is really dependent on the power level of the creatures within your deck. Tekkathal Inquiry Dominus might just be our best rare just because it's a 4-mana 3/5 flyer, but in Sealed, not very consistently going to be doing anything synergistic. We need to just open a lot of Proliferate cards and open a lot of cards that come with counters on them, which obviously we don't have any say over. So we'll see, maybe Tekkathal will be sweet, but potentially just a 4-mana 3/5 flyer. And then Aria Ivor Bane of Bladehold might be the best rare, but again, we do need to open a lot of support for this card. Ideally, we're getting a lot of value off of the Battle Cry ability, getting a bunch of Phyrexian Mites on the board, attacking with this, buffing our entire field. But pretty weak rares overall, not very excited about this sealed pool, but we haven't seen our commons and uncommons yet, and there are some sweet ones in the set. So I'm going to start off like I always do, taking a look at the multicolored and colorless cards to see if we have any signpost uncommons heading us in any direction. There's a Serum Core Chimera here. We have 2 of them, which is pretty good. This is one of the slower of the signpost uncommons, though. Hasn't played super well in the format with how aggressive it is, but it could be a little better in Sealed, where it does slow down a little bit. So we've got 2 of those in terms of multicolored cards, but that's it outside of the rare Bane of Bladehold. We do have some really good mana fixing here if we have anything that's really worth splashing. Obviously our rares don't really fit that bill, but we have Terramorphic Expanse, 2 Dune Movers that can grab a basic from our deck, and 2 Prophetic Prisms to get a mana of any color. So that's the best thing going on in terms of our multicolored and colorless. We definitely have solid mana fixing, but that's about it to be worried about. So we'll keep that in mind, keep the Chimeras in mind, and take a peek at all of our colors individually. I don't think any of our multicolored cards like the Bane of Bladehold or Chimera are big enough draws to really solidify us and just automatically put us in those colors. And honestly, I don't think any of our rares are either. So it's really just going to be dependent on what are the strongest colors in the sealed pool and do they synergize well together. Alright, we are going to start looking at each individual color, starting with white. Looks like we have a great curve of aggressive creatures. I'm actually pretty into this color. We have Duelist of Deep Faith, Jawbone Duelist, and Double Mandible Justiciar. Ideally, we can pick up a secondary color with more good artifact threats to buff those Justiciars. But we do have a couple toxic creatures, not a lot of them, and the Porcelain Zealot to help buff them up. We have a couple Bardishas in the late game. This plays pretty well. In the sealed format, it's just really good in a board stall where you start making your weakest creatures big enough to matter quite a bit and get some attacks in. So I do like the Bardishas. Really like the Ossification and Planar Disruption as exceptional removal spells. We also have a Swooping Lookout on one, which is a very impressive card. A lot better than it looks. Sinew Dancer is just fine, not that exciting, but definitely playable. And kind of the same with Charge the Mites and Vanish into Eternity. Not very exciting, but in Sealed they're perfectly playable. I think the first cards that would get cut here would be probably Charge the Mites, Vanish into Eternity, but I guess at least the Charge does work with the Mandible Justiciars, making 2 little Phyrexian Mites at instant speed. That could be pretty cool. I don't know, I like the white overall. Again, we're probably not playing every single one of these cards, but the cards that we cut are going to be pretty dependent on what our second color would be. So white looks pretty solid here. Give it like a maybe 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Some pretty great removal, decent curve of 1s and 2s. Not bad. Next up, we're taking a look at our blue, which does also look pretty strong. We have some really good 2-drops. We have Ichor Synthesizer, so if we can cast a lot of non-creature spells, this can be an unblockable threat. Malcator's Watcher is a nice card because it just trades off into some 1 toughness creature and draws you a card. While it's at it, Gitaxian Raptor is really good at holding off early aggro decks. This just blocks a lot of things really well with that 4 toughness, and you can just fluctuate its power and toughness wherever it needs to be. So if they attack you with a 2-3, then you can make this a 3-2 and trade off if you want to. If they attack you with a 2-2, you can make it a 2-3 and just win that fight. And if they attack you with a 3-1, then you just have a 1-4 to block with. So I like the Raptor quite a bit. The Anatomists are really not great. They're pretty slow, dirtly creatures. Curator also not great unless we have some really powerful instants and sorceries. So these are just not that exciting. Quicksilverfish is another card that looks really good at face value, but has not played well in the format because it's a 5-mana card with only 3 toughness. So it's very, very bad at blocking, and you definitely need to be good at blocking in slower decks in this format, which blue decks tend to be. We do have that Techathol, which is nice, and a few oil counter cards like the Raptor, the Synthesizer. So Techathol should be pretty good in here. And then Tamiyo's Immobilizer is the strongest non-creature card in the deck, being an icy manipulator, going to constantly just manipulate the board state and lock some things down, so that's pretty nice. Don't know if we have enough artifacts for Eye of Malcator. If we go blue-white, we could definitely go for it with those Mandible Justiciars, but off of just blue alone, not super sure about it. I do actually like Meldweb Strider at the top end, maybe even a little more than Quicksilverfish or Awkwardly, just because it blocks a lot better. It blocks as a 5/5, and it can crew itself the first time by removing an oil counter from it, so it's a nice, just chunky blocker at 5 mana. Serum Snare is pretty solid, but the Aspirant's Ascents are pretty filler combat tricks, so pretty decent stuff in blue. Not incredible, but definitely I think on par with our white here, which is nice. Checking out our black now. Very much not a fan of our creature base in black, but our non-creature spells are pretty phenomenal. Mainly having an Anoint with Affliction and Whisper of the Dross I'm very happy with. Annihilating Glare is pretty good, but it is quite a lot of mana, or we have to sacrifice something, so having 4 copies seems pretty cool, but actually might get a little dirtily having that many copies of the kind of hardest to cast removal spell that we could have access to. If this was like 4 copies of Anoint and 1 copy of Glare, I'd be super happy with both, but stacking up 4 copies of the 5-mana removal spell or the sacrifice-based removal spell is a little bit awkward. That being said, still a really good collection of non-creature spells here. Again, the creatures aren't great. We only have 2 2-drops. One of them doesn't really do much of anything. The Scheming Aspirant, we just have 1 Proliferate card on color. And then the Blight Belly Rat's pretty good for toxic strategies, but then Skitterling, we really need to corrupt our opponent. If we can, it's pretty good. And then it's just like Necrotitan, Testament Bearers. These are fine, but again, not that exciting. There's just not a lot of creatures. So black again, pretty similar to the other colors. I think it's actually my least favorite color so far, even though it has the great removal. I'm just not a big fan of the curve of creatures here. Moving on to red. Red also looks pretty fine. We haven't had a color that's just like incredibly obviously the play. Yeah, this just looks pretty fine to me. Decent curve of creatures. We've got a 1-drop Sawblade Scamp, Singer and Batterfist at 2, Cackler at 3. Not a huge fan of Magmatic Sprinter because you got to keep recasting it to keep it on the board, which can soak up a lot of your mana and slow you down quite a bit. I do like Furnace Strider and Resistance Skywarden at 5 mana. Like Hazardous Blast, Blazing Crescendo, Hexgold Slash, and Free from Flesh, all pretty good non-creature spells, the Hexgold Slash, of course, being incredible. So red does look real solid, again, probably on par with the white and the blue, but pretty solid stuff overall. And last but hopefully not least, we'll take a look at our green. That being said, the green does not look very good. Expand the Sphere is not a card I'm really going to play, nor is the Conduit of Worlds. We could main deck a Carnivorous Canopy, but not super excited about it. Same with like Spore Singer's pretty filler. Plague Nurse isn't good unless we're really focused on Toxic. I mean, we've got Infectious Bite for decent removal in green. We've got some really good creatures like Cankerbloom and Lattice Blade Mantis, but then the rest is pretty filler. Longlegs, Spore Singer, and Golfer, they're all fine. But none of these are like huge reasons to be in green. Yeah, green just looks fine. It's going to be a hard sealed pool to build. I don't think there's any very clear signals for what to do here. Kind of need to just pick out the deck that looks the most synergistic or has the best curve kind of thing. Yeah, very much not in love with this sealed pool. Don't know how well this one is going to do. This is a pretty bomb-heavy format, especially in sealed, where each player gets to open 6 packs. There are a lot of rares in the format that are super, super powerful, and we just don't have any of those. Bane of Blanehold is our best one, and it's just, like, fine. With our colors being as comparable as they are, we should probably just try to play our strongest 2 cards. Just go for Tekkathal and Rhea Evor, and do something like blue-white or blue-black, and splash the 3rd color off of our Prisms and our Dune Movers, because I do think splashing looks pretty easy in this sealed pool. So we just play our strongest cards, very basic kind of sealed strategy. We play Terramorphic, double Dune Mover to get there. Probably also play the Prisms, but they don't impact the board, so unless they're super necessary, we'd rather just start with Dune Movers and the Terramorphic Expanse, where we don't have to spend any mana or any time just setting up mana. We'll see how it turns out. Let's look at our white, blue, and black again. So, if I wanted to run white, blue, splash black, what's this deck going to look like here? We don't need these Aspirant Ascent combat tricks. Take the weakest creatures out like the Anatomists that are slow. Fisher, probably just play Bardishas over that. Curator, I don't think, again, our instants and sorceries are good enough to want the 3-4. Actually don't love Synthesizer here. We can focus a lot more on the artifact creature front. Yeah, and we're probably not that toxic either. Vanish maybe. This puts us at 11 creatures, 2 equipment. So it's like a 13 creature deck. It's a little low. Yeah, I should have cut the Ascents first. Put some more of those filler white and blue creatures back in. Kind of just 2 drops. We don't have a lot of 3s to put in here, which is awkward. I guess I do have an Eye of Malcator kind of upping the creature count as well. I guess we put the Duelist and the Synthesizer back in over those combat tricks. A lot of black removal spells we can splash in. We probably just need to splash in the best ones, because we've got decent removal in white. And okay interaction in blue with Serum Snare and Immobilizer. Yeah, take a look at the black here. Yeah, I mean, just run an Anoint and a Whisper, I guess. Probably fine. Glare might actually be better in this deck. I don't think I care too much about Proliferate. It's obviously pretty good with Tekkathal. We get to double Proliferate our charge counters or something, but I don't think we're actually like poisoning that much to care too much about Proliferation, so Annihilating Glare. We should have like some Might tokens and stuff, something sacrifice to this. I guess I actually don't have that much Might production, which is kind of weird. Usually you're going to have a lot, but we just have the Bane of Bladehold and that's about it. And 1 charge of the Mights. I mean, I might even just cut charge of the Mights at this rate. Run 1 Glare, 1 Whisper. I think I'd rather run multiple Glares over Vanishes. But this is not looking particularly exciting to me. It's great interaction. Bunch of 2-mana creatures. It's a pretty easy splash with double Dune Mover, Evolving Wilds. But I mean, even with Tekkathal, the blue just doesn't look that incredible to really be that exciting as a main deck color. Like, do I just swap to just black-white? Kind of want to take a look at it. I'd like to get a color that can support the curve pretty well and add more 3s, because we have so many good white 2-drops. So if I was just black-white, I would still have the same problem where I have a million 2-drops and 4-drops and nothing at 3. Well, can't really pick and choose our curve super well. I guess I could play Necrotitan here. We probably have a little more expendable creatures. Got a little more toxic for sure to try to get them corrupted. Again, it doesn't look incredible. I mean, all the removal is good for sure, but that's about it. We're all in on removal spells. I don't like Vraska's Fall in the main deck in this format against Phyrexian Mites and Goblin tokens and all that. If we play against a white deck that just goes turn 1 Crawl and Chorus, Vraska's Fall is a complete blank. It's also really bad with Planar Disruption. If we happen to draw the Disruption before we draw the Vraska's Fall, it's going to make the Vraska's Fall useless. Because they can just sacrifice whatever we've already pacified. So we'll definitely cut that one. And I have just plenty of other better removals. All of our non-creature spells in the black-white deck are just removal spells. We just have 8 removal spells in the deck, and that's just how it goes. I mean, this might be the deck. Again, the curve is like really awkward. I don't really know how we're winning the game. I guess we're just trying to blow up everything our opponent does and just attack them with random dorks, and that's it. That's how we win. Just doesn't feel super synergistic, doesn't feel like we have very many super good finishers or anything, or a particularly good curve. But honestly, with this sealed pool, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yeah, we've got a lot of removal, a lot of 2-drops and 4-drops, so we are playing a lot of creatures. Is there anything in blue worth splashing? Because we can't really splash in our blue bomb rare because it costs double blue. Be a pretty difficult splash. We could put the Immobilizer in though, that could be worth it, honestly. Again, we have 2 Dune Mover and a Terramorphic, so we just need to put 1 island in the deck and it's kind of a free splash. We just immediately have like 4 blue sources off of 1 island, because we have an island, a Terramorphic, double Dune Mover. And 4 is enough for a 1-card splash. It seems reasonable. Yeah, I mean, green could give us a little more creatures on curve, but they're generally really filler creatures. I feel like... How do I search for mana value? MV. MV equals 3. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we have like any 3-mana creatures in here. In the seal pool. We literally, we can't have a curve. These are all the 3-mana creatures we're not playing. That's actually absurd. There is no color pair where we have a legitimate curve 2 up to 4. Like, not only do we have pretty weak rares, but we don't have a curve, period. We jump over 3 mana, no matter what colors we're playing. Maybe there's an equipment or something. See if there's anything with 4 Mirrodin. No, there's not even a 3-mana 4 Mirrodin card. We have 3 3-mana creatures in the entire sealed pool. We're playing one of them in the black-white build. Yeah, well, that kind of proves none of our colors are really going to have a better curve than this. Wait, why did it do that? We have a Gitaxian. Why did it do that? Yeah, what the heck? Mana value's 3 and it's a creature? Okay, weird. We have more mana value 3 creatures, but there's still very few of them, and most of them are very bad, like Sprinter, Spore Singer, Custodian. We could play Custodian just for curve purposes. I guess it works with Mandible Justiciar, but that is really not where we want to be. Alright, we have more mana value 3 creatures than I said. Our best one is honestly the Gitaxian Raptor. So the most curvy deck we have is blue-white. And we just go blue-white, splash black, play the black removal still. We just don't get access to Skitterling, Necrotitan, the Testament Bears, and the Blightbelly Rat. That's honestly probably fine. This black-white doesn't look that much better than the blue-white did. Neither deck looks particularly good. Kind of want to swap over to the blue-white again. Just feel like it might just be better. I guess I kind of get an Eye of Malcator at 3 mana as well. Don't play the Ascents, the Curator, the Anatomists. Treat all these black cards as later game plays, because we need to wait till we hit the black source for them. Creature count looks like here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 with Eye of Malcator. Plenty for an aggressive strategy. We even have a Meldweb Strider as well. I think I prefer the Bardishas over the Strider, and I don't want too many 5s, so we'll cut that. Probably cut the Fisher as well. Zealot doesn't look super good in here, because we just don't have a lot of toxic in the sealed pool. 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just 4 though. I mean, Zealot's still okay without toxic creatures. I just don't think it's great. Probably not worth running with just 4 toxic creatures, but it's close. It's still borderline. Don't love this Ichor synthesizer. Again, 4 glare seems like a lot. It's probably another cut. So Fisher, Zealot, synthesizer, and then cut a glare. 4 black removal spells in here. This might just be what we're doing. It just feels awkward no matter what we do here. This gives us the strongest cards in our sealed pool because it gives us Tekkathal and the Bane of Bladehold. Gives us all 5, well, I guess we have 6 black removal spells, but it gives us 5 black removal spells, the 2 great removal spells in white, blues, Tameo Immobilizer, and Serum Snare. Gives us a lot of power here. Again, the creature curve isn't phenomenal, but none of our colors have a good creature curve. Probably one of the best decks we can build here. And again, because our curve is so awkward where we have so many holes in it, I think we're actually just legitimately going to run all these tap lands, which can often be pretty punishing in this format, but that's because most decks want to be curving out using all of their mana every turn. They want to go 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop. With this deck, with these, I have 1 mana card in the deck, so if I have any of these in my opening hand, I can just get it out of the way turn 1. And then I have like 2 3 mana cards, so if I don't get it out of the way turn 1, if I draw it a little bit later, I can play it on turn 3 while I play a second 2 mana card. Should be pretty easy to get tap lands out of the way here and just use these for the value, not really get punished for them. So I think we keep those in. Let's go ahead and commit to this deck for now. I'm going to save the deck and I'll keep looking at other strategies. If anything pops up, I'll put them in the video, but just know that I am looking at all the other color pairs here. If anything looks particularly interesting, we'll keep it edited into the video so you can see them. And obviously if we swap what the deck is doing, I'll edit that into the video as well. But yeah, we need to fix the mana base here and then call it a deck. 6 blue cards, 6 black cards, 10 white. Probably something like this. 8 white sources, 6 blue sources, 2 black sources. Again, because we don't need black till turn 4. And I have 2 Dune Movers and Terramorphic and Double Swamp. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black sources still. Whereas with blue and white, like I need them to play my cards on curve. But with black, it's all these cards I'm not playing until late in the game when I just need to remove scary threats. So I think this is probably how we're going to run the mana base. 8, 6, 2. With a Terramorphic and Double Dune Mover. I could cut like 1 glare for a Prophetic Prism. That would be okay in here, because it would work with Malcator's Watcher and Eye of Malcator. And it would work with the Annihilating Glares. We can sacrifice the Prism to blow something up. It would make the mana base a little bit easier. I just don't want to run all of my Prisms because I don't want to spend too much time dirtling around, slamming down artifacts that don't really affect the board in any way. 1 is probably worth it. Cut 1 glare, play 1. Maybe even cut a Whisper, honestly, because again, we don't profit that much from Proliferate. I'll cut a Whisper, run triple glare and a Prophetic Prism in here. Anoint, even though we're very rarely going to corrupt our opponent, does still exile things and it's instant speed, so I think it's worth it, even though it's only hitting mana value 3 or less. I think it's still better than a 4th copy of Glare. So yeah, we'll go the 1 Prism, 3 Glare build to make the mana even easier. And I guess we'll call that a deck and save it there, so if I do go with that, I don't have to rebuild it later. But then I'm going to keep taking looks at other color pairs, ones that don't involve the best cards in the sealed pool, just like red, black, red, green, I don't know, stuff like that, green, white. Alright, hold up a minute, because here's a look at the blue-red deck running those double Serum Core Chimeras. Again, Serum Core Chimeras have generally been a bit too slow for the format, but I mean, this looks like the most synergistic pile we can make. We do have those Sprinters in, which can be awkward. But they give us something to do at 3 mana, and they work pretty well with the Serum Core Chimeras. I still really don't like Magmatic Sprinter, but got it in the deck for now. We might move it around for something else. But this does look like pretty solid. Like, we have a more reasonable curve. We still have a little bit of interaction. We have Tameo's Immobilizer to lock things down, Hexgold Slash to kill a small thing, Serum Snare, and Skull Bomb to bounce a thing. Looks pretty reasonable. So this would be like we have less powerful cards in the deck, right? We don't have the Bane of Bladehold, but we do have Tekkathal at least. We've got a better curve. That's honestly the main thing. Eye of Malcator still does work in here as another 3-mana creature. We've got all these are artifacts. Wait, I don't know why this popped up there, but all these are artifacts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other artifacts for the eye. It's a little borderline. Maybe the eye is a little awkward in here. I mean, I guess I can go play a Dune Mover over the Magmatic Sprinter, and that'll up the artifact count for the eye. So the best, honestly, the best thing our other deck has going for it is it has way more ways to deal with opposing threats, because it's got all the black removal spells. But I guess I still have the Terramorphic double Dune Mover in here, so I could go like Grixis and run all the black removal spells. But white gave us removal spells as well. Again, for interaction, we only have the Slash and some bounce spells mainly. And one Immobilizer. I feel like this deck looks a little better as a draft deck, but for sealed, I think it's okay to be a little more awkward on curve to just run more removal spells and some bigger plays. Yeah, this is the next best deck. It's this deck or the kind of blue, white, black pile that we made. It's one of these two is got to be the deck, but I guess we have Chimeras as removal as well. But again, they aren't good at dealing with the bombs, which is the thing that all our black removal's good at dealing with. Because they can kill anything, where this can only deal 3 damage. It's really close between these two piles. This one more synergistic, more consistent, but the blue-white-black pile just more raw power on average. Not a lot more raw power. It's not like we have Mega Bombs. We just have, again, Bane of Bladehold and a bunch of removal upping the power level. But looking at the sealed pool, honestly, I don't think there are any other decks that are going to be any better than these. It's just a blue-red or Esper or bust. I guess we have a Copperline Gorge. We could splash a little bit of green pretty easily if I need to put an Infectious Bite or something in here. I don't even think that's great in here, though, because most of our creatures are pretty low power. It's an option. And a Green Sun's Twilight, I guess. Dig for Serum Core Chimeras or something. It's close, but I think I'm just going to roll with that Esper build and call it a deck. Alright, here is a final look at the sealed deck we will be playing for the Arena Open Day 1 event. It's going to be an Esper, just all removal spells pile of cards. We have a ton of 2-drop creatures, most of them being artifacts to make our Mandible Justiciars and Eye of Malcator pretty nice aggressive threats. Then we have the 2 best cards in our sealed pool. A Tekkathal is just a big flyer, and the Bane of Bladehold as a way to battle cry our whole board, potentially make some extra might tokens. A couple Bardishas that are really good in board stalls and quite nice in the late game. And then a really good collection of non-creature spells is really what makes this kind of color trio where it's at for me. We have Tamiyo's Immobilizer, Ossification, Planar Disruption, Anoint with Affliction, Triple Annihilating Glare, and Serum Snare. And then we even have the Prophetic Prism, the 2 Dune Movers, and the Terramorphic Expanse to make the Black Splash nice and easy. So that's the deck we're playing today, just trying to curve out some artifact creatures, blow up everything our opponent does, take over the long game. We'll see how it does, fingers crossed, as we head into the gameplay. Alright, here we are on the play for game 1. I think I'm going to Terramorphic for the blue source, because we have less black cards than blue cards, and we have the Prism in hand to hit the black source. So let's just make sure we can watch her turn 2, but this is definitely a keep. We can definitely wait till their end step to not give them any information, but I don't really think they're going to make any plays around me having an island on board this early. Well, now I drew into Mandible Justiciar, so I'd rather drop that out than the Malcator's Watcher first, because it can hit a little harder. Does play worse against exactly Whisper of the Dross. Okay, well. Now we're actually pretty happy that our Watcher didn't get Whispered, because now we can actually block Siphoner, and the awkward thing is I don't want to curve out Prism into Rhea anymore, because I want to make sure that I keep myself completely uncorrupted so they don't get any proliferation off the poison counters. Yeah, we'll play it a little slow here and go for Watcher. Bane of Bladehold is the only creature on your board is not that insane. It's going to be a complete devotion? No, we're just going to get the trade. Say, not much we can do if they have complete devotion. We'll just have to ossify the Siphoner if they do. Right, we've got a Dune Mover, but I don't really want to draw any more lands. A Mobilizer on an empty board isn't that crazy. I think I'm just going to set up my mana, play the Prism, see what we hit, and then probably post-combat Dune Mover. Ooh, Techathal, which is castable with the Prism. Alright. Yeah, I'm good. We'll decline the Dune Mover. Hexgold Hoverwings from our opponent. Probably just drop a 3/5 against that. Oh my god, but we draw a Serum Snare. Now I can just kill that for 2 mana. I'm not doing anything else with my mana though, so not that exciting. I think I'll offer the trade with Dune Mover and play our 3/5. I would rather use all 4 of my mana. Serve out nice and consistently. We can wait till they play another threat, then I can ossify and Serum Snare in the same turn. Well, there's their own ossification. Goodbye to Techathal. And a Crawling Chorus. Luckily they didn't get the Crawling Chorus till turn 5, but it's still a pretty nasty card. Going to lock the Dune Mover off of any profitable attacks. Take another 3 damage in the sky is not that bad. Just play Rhea and pass. Yeah, I can take another 3 in the sky here. Let's keep setting up so we have good counterattacks when we start removing their cards. Alright, well. This is a pretty big decision point here. We have 2 ways to go about this. We can try to get them to lose to the Archfiend. Once it removes 4 oil counters, they will lose the game. Or we can just remove it immediately with ossification. I think with Snare to kill their token and an ossification for another threat of theirs, I kind of want to try to lock them out of the game and kill them off their Archfiend. It's definitely risky because the Archfiend staying on board means we will lose 2 life every time that one of our creatures dies, but we can just go on the full defensive here. All we gotta do is survive like 4 turns. If they don't draw into any more proliferate. Okay, so we're down to 10. I can Serum Snare the token, though, and I have the block for anything else with this Raptor. I think I play the Raptor and hold up the Serum Snare, because I need a flyer, so that if they move the Hexgold Hoverwings around, I can still block. But a 1/4 flyer is going to be good enough to block, right? Because it's going to be a 2/1. I guess it turns into a 4/3 with Zealot. So we're going to have to kill Zealot as well, but hopefully they just buff the Rebel again for a turn. Wait to move the Hoverwings over. Because I don't have the mana to do Ossification and Serum Snare here, so I think it's a little better to just hold up Snare. Sheoldred's Edict. Sack a non-token creature. Well, that deals 2 damage to me with Archfiend. Not ideal, but we can just sack Dune Mover at least. But they're out of cards in hand, so they have to top deck pretty well here to find a kill. Our hand is pretty decent at just controlling them. I should have waited till combat there. I just saw a trigger on the stack and I got all excited. Alright, yeah. It's gonna be a great Serum Snare here. Kill that token, get another counter on a Mobilizer. They have no attacks here. We also got another counter on Raptor, but that doesn't matter as much. Okay, so they make the Crawling Chorus a 2/1 flyer. If I ossify the Zealot, then it's just a 2/1 flyer, and the Raptor can block that for days. So we will ossify the Zealot. I will have a Dune Mover as an additional blocker, so I think there's no reason not to send in Rhea here. They're not going to have any haste in their black-white deck. Get some mites on board, drop a Dune Mover and pass. Decline. Alright. They lose the game next turn off this Archfiend. Alright, and Tamiyo's Immobilizer are going to be a pretty busted card against the Archfiend. The draw is going to find us a nice, clean victory there in Game 1. Here we are on the play in Game 2. This does not look particularly keepable. We need to get to 5 mana for Glares, 4 for Techathals. Even if I immediately hit a land, I guess if I immediately hit a land, I can play Duelist and these removal spells, but I did a lot for the rest of the hand. I'm going to take the mulligan here. Alright, this is pretty reasonable. With Watcher to draw another card, I think I'm going to ditch a land here. I don't have any double white in the deck, but I do have the double blue card, so we'll just drop a Plains. Get our turn 1 Swooping Lookout and pass the turn. Just going to start off with multiple Vigilant Flyers. There's a Rhea Evor. Definitely need to find one of our mana fixing cards. Or just a swamp. We have like 7 sources I think we could hit. 2 Swamp, Terramorphic, 2 Dune Mover. Alright, we do hit a Dune Mover. And a Prism. So we had 6 sources we could hit there. So pretty lucky draw, hitting one immediately. But Longlegs also pretty lucky draw. That just blanks the entire start of my game here. Now we do nothing, because that's a 1/3 with reach. You hate to see it. Swamp to the top of the library. As soon as Arena lets me actually click on it. And we'll play Rhea Evor next turn. Another Copper Longlegs. Well, that's sad. I cry every time. Play the Bane of Bladehold first, and then later we can get an attack in with an Immobilizer. Immobilize one of the Longlegs, attack with Rhea and the Dune Mover. We're attacking with 2/3 power creatures. They probably just have a removal spell here. Nope. Venomous Brutalizer. Alright, so I guess I'll have to immobilize that, and then send in Rhea and Dune Mover. Could anoint something with Infliction instead, but I can't kill the Brutalizer with that, so there's not much of a point. I think we're on Immobilize the Brutalizer, which allows us to then attack with this. They have 2 power total. They could double block a Lookout and kill it. So I think we're just attacking with Rhea and Dune Mover. Make it so if Rhea hits them, we get mites, I think. Because all of those mites get to attack as 2/1s in the future, which is pretty big, and we actually also kind of want to corrupt our opponent with the Anoint with Affliction in hand, so we could potentially kill a bigger card later. Blight Belly Rats. I think if they send in the Brutalizer, we'll just take it, allow ourselves to get corrupted, but keep as many creatures on board as possible for our battle cry. Just go for the race here. Race it out. We are corrupted. Now I could immobilize the Longlegs and send in the squad, or I could just anoint the Longlegs, send in the squad. Both of those feel pretty great. I think I'm going to anoint the Longlegs and hold up the Immobilizer to play when they go to combat, so we get kind of 2 triggers off of it. I guess they can respond by proliferating with the Longlegs, but that's fine. We still get it out of the way, which is the important part. I guess I don't need it out of the way that badly. They just kill Malcator's Watcher for free. They can't kill Lookout. It does let me get all the flying damage in. I think it's probably worth it here to keep the pressure on them. So if I tap Blight Belly Rat, I hit for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If I don't tap Blight Belly Rat, it just trades into one of my cards, and then I tap down a creature on blocks. I think I'm cool with it trading with something here. And then just going for the lethal next turn after another Immobilize. Because we can't hit lethal this turn anyway, and we'll still hit them more than hard enough to threaten lethal next turn. Alright, they're going to chump the Bane of Bladehold to prevent any more mites from hitting the board. Still got the double immobilizer here, where we get to tap one of their creatures now and another creature after they untap. Or after we untap. Alright, so they did need to corrupt us to kill our Bane of Bladehold, but we still have 5 power on the board. They have 1 blocker. Go to 8 poison here. If they attack, I might chump with Watcher and Crackback. I don't think I want to immobilize or precon, but I think I want to leave these counters. Yeah, I think I'm pretty safe to just chump draw a card. Let's potentially lower my clock if I don't hit any more creatures. Then it's going to take 3 turns to kill them instead of 2. Alright. Serum Snares the draw. Okay. Draw a card off the Hunter Maze is their play. So I probably should have just tapped Brutalizer, because this did slow down my clock since I didn't draw another creature. It's a little greedy. Just hoping to hit another creature or something there. Still find a 2-turn lethal. Make me sack the Lookout. That's actually fine, because I can put them to 9 poison and then Serum Snare anything they play. Okay, obviously just tap Brutalizer now. They've got no other creatures to play. Alright. I guess I just poison them out then. Or honestly, they'll die to regular combat damage at the same time. But if they play anything that's mana value 3 or less, then we just proliferate up to 10. Call it a day. Things worked out okay for us, because that Shieldred's Edict meant that we would not have had lethal into attacks either way. Would have just hit them for 1 more so far. They'd be at 1 life instead of 2. Turn the music down. Let me concentrate. Competitive Magic. They're going to drown and Ichor their own card here. Proliferate on themselves, probably. There's no way for them to get 4 more poison counters, so I'm not going to try to counter this with a Serum Snare. Yeah, they're just proliferating on themselves. Cool. Cool. Taking the gentleman's way out. We'll be 2-0 now as we head into Game 3. Bane of Bladehold definitely putting in the work that game. Alright, here we are in Game 3. Turn 1 Lookout, turn 2 Duelist. Good interaction. A Basilica to crack later in the game. Definitely not a mulligan. Drop our Lookout, pass the turn. Alright, opponent doesn't have a 1-drop. We've got an Eye of Malcator. We can go ahead and use that to scry, try to find another artifact to play, to hit them with that as well. And we've got a nice aggressive curve on the play here. We can hit artifacts for the Eye of Malcator. Mere Convert, we definitely get to attack into that. I could disrupt it, stop them from making any mana off of it. I think I'd rather just play the Eye of Malcator here, because it already just can't block well, and then I can disrupt whatever they play. And if they do use it for mana, they do lose some more life at least, so we're still getting some extra damage in while they're playing bigger spells. So yeah, let's send in the squad play an Eye of Malcator, I think. Let's see what we're going to find for the Eye. Mandible Justiciar. play Justiciar and Basilica. Trigger the eye, hit them with it. Yeah, I think I put the Duelist on the bottom, keep the Justiciar on top to trigger the Eye of Malcator. Could have scryed both to the bottom if I'm just desperate to find the black source, but I can wait on it here still. We have a planar disruption to use if something really needs to be dealt with. Basilisk is a little annoying. I think if they trade Basilisk into the Eye of Malcator, that's probably fine, because we don't even know if we can trigger it again after this turn. So I think I am just going to play Justiciar, attack with Lookout, Eye of Malcator, and then play Fair Basilica. Again, if Eye of Malcator just scries 2 and then clears the Basilisk out of the way, that's a fine deal. Dealt with their 3-drop, with our 3-drop. They have a 1-mana combat trick that wins this fight. They have the +2/+2 in red. That would be uncool. They're the Hexproof Indestructible. I'm actually kind of okay with that, because that's a pretty premium combat trick to get out of the way with Eye of Malcator. So if we just trade Eye of Malcator into Tyvar's Stand, like, that's also fine. Would have been kind of unhappy if it traded with a Free From Flesh, just a +2/+2 trick, but the Tyvar Stand can do so much where it counters a removal spell later, or it just does a bunch of extra damage to me. Actually pretty good to just have that out of the way. So that's still a fine trade for the Eye of Malcator. 1-for-1 trade there. Card for a card. Ruthless Predation to kill our flyer. Cutthroat Centurion. It can sack a creature, give it +2/+2 till end of turn, a creature or an artifact, so can potentially block as a 4/4. Can't anoint anything, can't glare anything. Can disrupt, though. If I disrupt Basilisk, though, now Centurion can just eat it and block as a 4/4. If I disrupt Centurion, I don't have any attacks. I think I need a black source badly enough to sack the Basilica and just see what we draw here. I think there are any great disruption plays. None of them are going to get an attack in. There is the Prism for the black source. Board state's pretty quickly coming out of favor for us, but our hand is like all removal. So after we get this Prophetic Prism active, we can start to try to just control the board again until we can draw into another threat. Alright, Hive Master's very good, because it dies and replaces itself with another card with the Centurion, and even if I try to exile it, they can just sack it to the Centurion. Honestly, trading a Justiciar into any of these cards is fine at this point. Yeah, I'll trade my 2-mana card into their 3-mana card. They get a little Might token, but they can't really do anything except trigger the Cutthroat Centurion. And if I hit a land off of the Prism or just off of my draw, then I get to block Centurion with Jawbone Duelist and hold up the Anoint with Affliction in response to them sacking a thing. So they just sack their thing and still lose Centurion. Kind of risky to just Prism. I do have 4 lands. I have 13 left in the 27. Just a tiny bit under a 50-50 of hitting a land if I Prism here. Because it's 13 out of 27 instead of 13 out of 26. We take those coin flips. I mean, how impactful is Malcator's Watcher anyway? Like, they probably just... They attack with Basilisk Centurion, and they get that attack in even if I play the Watcher. Right? They already don't get to attack with Convert or the Phyrexian Might, so that's not going to change by playing a Watcher. I don't think I'm disrupting here still. I think we play Prism. Fingers crossed on that 50-50. And even if we don't hit it, it's not that much worse than just playing Watcher. Alright, we do hit the land, and it's just the natural black source, which is great. So now do I play Watcher or Hold Up Anoint? I think I'm on Hold Up Anoint here. Again, we're going to block Centurion, get them to sack something, and exile it. They're only going to sack a Phyrexian Might here, but still it's better to kill two things than just one thing. Oh, or they just top deck a 4-4 with haste? And ruin my day, because now we're just corrupted guaranteed. Can't do anything about that. Yeah, that's not lovely. I can glare that or disrupt it later, but I am getting hit for the 3 poison is the important part. We've done a really good job being completely untouched by poison for now. Oh, they're just going to take the trade, sure. Okay, they're not going to take the trade. Alright, we have been poisoned a bit. Now that I have a prism down, I could just sack the prism to the glare. The only problem with that is I do have a double blue card in my deck. I won't be able to play Tekkathol anymore, but I've got a Dune Mover if I draw the Tekkathol. I feel like I just play in a Disrupt the Atrocity. But then I don't have Planar Disruption for something like Hive Master that has a good death trigger that I don't want to deal with. We're fine though, I can just trade a 2-1 into it. Yeah, I'm going to Disrupt Atrocity. Play Watcher here so we do start getting in for damage. It's there down to 9. Top deck Glissa Sunslayer. Alright. The draws do not stop. But that's how Magic works. You do draw a card every turn. Oh wow, they're going to pay the 2 life for the Hive Master. They are confident in making that play. Unfortunate for them, because this glare is going to put in work. And they attack with Basilisk. Sure. Alright, I can keep Prophetic Prism, so I will. Poke them down to 6. We're in a top deck war where I am killing them a little faster than they're killing me, I think. Because we have a Dune Mover to stop the Hive Master later. Right now, they get to attack with Hive Master and Basilisk, and that's like a little not great. It looks like they just sent in Hive Master, sure. There's the Tekkathol. Glad we kept the Prism then. And that's going to be an incredible blocker here. Gigantic 3-5, huge blocker, and it can let us kill them 1 turn faster. We just chip in with Watcher next turn to put them to 4, then we attack with both the turn after that. Fingers crossed they haven't found any outs here. They've only found a mere Convert for now, which doesn't really change anything on board. Got double Dune Mover just to play some blockers, sure. I think that's good enough that we do send in for the extra damage to put them to 1. This way, if they find removal for Tekkathol, we still kill them with the Watcher next turn. And there's our Trump blockers. And there you have it. We're going to be 3-0 heading into round 4 now. Here we are now in round 4. We've got all 3 colors thanks to this Terramorphic. We've got a turn 2 Duelist to try to corrupt them for the Anoint and tons of removal. We'll keep the hand. Grab an island and pass the turn. Turn 1, Vat of Rebirth. So over the course of a long game, that can be pretty scary. It can recur multiple creatures from their grave to battlefield, but if it ends up being a big problem, I can shut it off with Planar Disruption. I was going to say one of these cards can shut it off. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Disruption can do it. Whisper of the Dross on the Jawbone Duelist. Actually a really big deal for us, because that's our only threat. So I'm going to have to just use removal spells on some pretty mediocre creatures. This Anointing Hive Master is pretty simple here because it exiles it, doesn't trigger the Vat, and doesn't trigger its death ability. Go for that. Keep Ossification for something that could be more than 3 mana, because now it is no longer looking like we can corrupt our opponent anytime soon. They had the 1 mana removal. Another Hive Master? Ossification time? Yeah, I mean, that's better than casting the Annihilating Glare here, I think. And I can also sack the Basilica and still do it in the same turn. Planar Disruption also pretty much completely locks it down. The only problem with that is then I don't have Disruption for the Vat of Rebirth, if I need to do that later. But then I'll have Ossification for cards that might have good static abilities that the Hive Master doesn't have. But I'll still have Glare for those. I think I'm just going to Ossify. Keep getting rid of their threats without triggering their death abilities or their Vat of Rebirth. Alright, there's a Dune Mover. Do they still want a land? Do they want a 5th land? They do not. I guess it would be a 6th land because there's land for turn for them. Alright, draw a card off our Fair Basilica and see what we get. Gitaxian Raptor, that's a very good blocker for the Dune Mover. That is a pretty solid draw. We also draw our own Dune Mover. No instance to play here. So we probably do drop down both of these cards. I'm going to play the Dune Mover first, and then go to main phase 2, just to give them an opportunity to kill my Dune Mover with something, like an Anoint with Affliction. I don't think they're going to want to do that, but I'll let them have that opportunity. Okay. And I was going to say, if they have an Anoint with Affliction, they're probably just going to wait till the end step anyway and still get to kill the Raptor. Alright, they do not have anything they want to do yet. They're just going to cycle the Fair Basilica to draw a card, as we have. Flensing Raptor. Send the Dune Mover into the sky as a 3/2. They need a combat trick as well to kill Gitaxian Raptor here, and even if they have a combat trick, like +2/+2, I can still kill it, so we're just going to block. Like, if they play a Complete Devotion, we just make Raptor a 4/1 and still trade. A Whisper of the Dross, then that's bad. I was always going to kill at least one of our cards, though. Alright, now... probably Annihilating Glare the Flensing Raptor. Do I start racing this Dune Mover or just hold a block? Honestly, I have nothing in my deck that cares about corrupting them, so I feel like I'm supposed to just hold up a block on their Dune Mover. We don't need to worry about the Vat of Rebirth till they're at 4 oil. So once they're at 3 oil, we should worry because they have a lot of proliferate with these Whispers. They could have more like Drown and Ikers. Yeah, we definitely have to kill the Flensing Raptor, but I think we're just passing after that. This is turning into a pretty grindy game. Just going to be a top deck war overall, it looks like. Now this attack is good for them even if they don't have a trick, so I'm going to make this block assuming they probably don't. And that is the truth, because they're just trying to get more counters on the Vat. Alright, Surgical Bay is good. Could clear their whole board, but then they have 1 card in hand and I have nothing. Could just Planar Disrupt the Centurion, and then I have nothing to deal with Vat of Rebirth later. Or I glare the Centurion and let Rebirth go to 3, which means if they top deck any proliferation, they proliferate and then reanimate something. I think I want to be able to pacify this Vat. So I kind of want to just glare the Centurion and hope they don't just immediately have a proliferate card. In black and white, the only proliferate I can think of are the black proliferate removal spells, and they'll have nothing to remove. So they won't get a 4th counter on the Vat. They'll just have 3 counters on it, and then we can disrupt it next turn. If they don't play anything. Alright, we're probably disrupting the Vat. Because disrupting the Vat is going to be just as good as disrupting basically a Flensing Raptor. At worst. But now I'm completely playing off the top, which isn't a great spot to be. I guess I have enough mana to wait to disrupt until later still, in case they hit like a bomb rare. Because again, they can't proliferate onto the Vat without playing like a removal spell in the black-white color pair. We are not winning this top deck war, I can tell you that much. Oh, maybe we are. I think I disrupt the Vat, then play Tekkathol here. That way if they do have, well, if they have Drown in Ichor or Whisper of the Dross, they can target Tekkathol even if Tekkathol doesn't die. Make Tekkathol like a 0/1 to keep getting Phyrexia Might attacks in. Okay, I'm gonna disrupt this thing right now. Because they can only use that ability at sorcery speed. So this way now if they have Whisper of the Dross or Drown in Ichor, they don't get to use that. They do have a Skull Bomb to reanimate something from grave. Not ideal for me. Pick up the Flensing Raptor, draw a card. Play the Flensing Raptor. Or a removal spell here. Oh my god. Alright. I can't really attack here at 4 poison. The race is not favorable. We hit them for 3 damage a turn, which takes 7 turns to kill. And we get hit for 2 poison a turn, which takes 3 turns to kill. We have to just pass here. 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's only 5 lands left in these 20 cards now. We're at like a quarter. 1 in 4 chance of lands every draw step now. Yeah, we are just drawing way less gas, unfortunately. I've even got the removal spell still. It's way too late for the Bane. We block 1 creature, take 3 more poison, and die. Alright. Can't win them all. I think that matchup was pretty winnable, but not with those draws, unfortunately. 3-1 as we head into Game 5. On the play here, turn 2 Justiciar. I have to hit at least 1 land. If I do, I have Raptor afterwards. We are a 17 land deck. If I hit 2 more lands, like we've got wild cards to play, even if I don't hit the black source. We have Immobilizer and Tekkathol. It's a risky keep, but I will be keeping it here. Starting with the turn 2 Justiciar to kind of give us a little bit to play in the early game no matter what, and then even if I stumble on lands, we've at least gotten a little bit of lifelink going. Give us a little bit of time. If I don't stumble on lands, then this has pretty much all my strongest cards. Raptor into Immobilizer into Tekkathol. We did immediately hit a land, so we can at least Justiciar into Gitaxian Raptor to start the game off. Opponents on green-white start with a Predation Steward. We just offer the trade here pretty simply. If they don't take the trade, we're happy too, because we're going to play a blocker that can easily wall off the Steward. And we've gotten a 4 life point swing. We hit them for 2, and we gained 2. So our next draw was a 5 mana card, not really what we want to draw right now, but that's okay. We've still got time to hit the 4th land. We've got one more draw step to hit it without missing a land drop. Again, I think Justiciar into Raptor is good enough here that even if we miss a land drop or two, we're probably still in the game. It obviously won't be ideal, but it's not like we'll just lose on the spot. All right, they're just going to pass turn. We are immediately going to hit that 4th land. If I wait till I have 5 mana, I can remove 3 counters from Raptor for 4 life and just have an indestructible Tekkathal. That being said, green-white are going to have pacifism style or exile removal spells or fight spells, which means that Tekkathal is already safe from the fight spells, and even if Tekkathal is indestructible, Tekkathal won't be safe from pacifism or exile effects. So I don't think I need to wait on Tekkathal. I think I'm just going to play it next turn, main phase 2. So we'll just send these in. Offer the trade for Steward again, hit for 1 in the sky, then drop Tekkathal. Alright, they're down to 15, we're up to 24, and here is our Inquiry Dominus. The legendary 3/5 flying Phyrexian horror. And we pass the turn. Pretty good 2-3-4 curve here. Justiciar into Raptor into the Inquiry Dominus. Our opponent is going to play a Charge of the Mites to get 2 Phyrexian Mites onto the board. They're at 15 life here. We're threatening 7 damage in the sky next turn, putting them down to 8. We're at 24. We do need to worry a little about poison, but not really about regular life total. At this rate, we're at 24, and we have another lifelinking attack next turn. I guess depends on how they attack here, but I don't really think I'm going to block at all. Just to keep Tekkathal safe from Titanic growth. The +4/+4 2 mana instant combat trick in green. So if I just keep my flyers on board, like, they're going to die in 3 attacks. Yeah, we play around Titanic growth. I'll take 4 damage. Looks like they may not have anything there because they just skipped right through that combat. Now they're going to play a Plague Nurse, so they're just trying to outrace with poison potentially. Okay. Well, Justiciar can't really get an attack in anymore, so we'll probably have that held back to stop some poison. See what we draw into. Another land, we can play a Bardiche. Have a 4/3 blocker as well. I think I like that a little better than a Mobilizer. Pretty cool with it. Hit as hard as we can in the sky. And have a 4/3 blocker. Just get ready to Justiciar on Steward. 4/3 on Plague Nurse. Take maybe 4 poison max. I think I'm going to cash in a little bit of extra damage here. I'm going to leave 1 counter, so if I proliferate, I get 2 more. But I'm going to cash in some extra damage here, put them down to 9. And play Bardiche. And pass the turn. And our ground troops are not really valuable enough to play around any combat tricks here. We're just going to be slamming those blocks off. Trying to stay as far from poisoned out as possible. The only way our opponent hits us for 4 poison here if I block Plague Nurse is by pretty much tapping out, spending 3 mana to give their other creatures Toxic. Which means they won't be playing any other creatures this turn, so I don't think I have to worry super badly here. But that is looking like what they were trying to do by sending that attack in last turn. If they have one of the green fight spells, they can use Steward plus the spell now to kill Tekkathal. Give +2/+2 to Plague Nurse and then have Plague Nurse fight the 3/5. That would be a little sad, but I think we'd still be in the lead here. Definitely be better than if they just had a Planar Disruption or an Ossification to just exile the Tekkathal. Interesting, they're going to be buffing a Might token here. Threaten a pretty good attack with that, maybe? Well, now we know they don't have one of the green fight spells to use here. It looks like, again, probably just trying to break through the board state, get some damage in. I guess they could have Infectious Bite and they just want to use it on our token to hit us. A little weird, but I guess it could be possible. Okay, so they're going to have 1 to 2 blockers here max at 9 life. If they don't play another blocker, and I just play a Mobilizer, tap down the Nurse, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 even. Whereas if I lose this, I'm only hitting for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't love that I'm getting corrupted here, but I think I'm going to play it to where this is lethal if they don't play a 2-mana creature post-combat. I guess Justiciar, I guess I didn't need Justiciar for lethal, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I don't need the Justiciar for lethal, but I'd also just be chumping with Justiciar. I wouldn't even be trading. Still kind of okay with that line. I think if it wasn't like a buffed might, if it was just a 1/1, it would be solid to just take the trade for Justiciar there because I'm still threatening the lethal. Okay, so Predation makes sure that I don't have the lethal. They do have the Predation, but they didn't buff the Nurse, fight the Techathal there. So must really be going for poison. Alright. That does keep them alive through a Tamiyo's Immobilizer. Right, because I hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Puts them to 1 life if I immobilize the Plague Nurse. Kill them in 2 swings in the sky, kind of regardless. So I'm probably just going to play Immobilizer and hold it on blocks here. Could also just Bardiche something up. Bardiche that, hit for 5, 6, 7 in the sky. Could Bardiche Justiciar that forces a block. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, and just trade into Plague Nurse instead of playing Immobilizer, then I still have it for next turn. It also seems good. We'll do that. Force the trade here. Alright, cool. I think I'm going to use this Raptor counter, because then just 4 damage next turn it's lethal. I guess it's lethal either way if Raptor remains, but just in case Raptor doesn't. Might be a little greedy though, because I do have a little bit of Proliferate in this deck, I think. A tiny bit of it. Yeah, I have the 1 Serum Snare, 1 Proliferate card in the whole deck. With 1 Proliferate card in the whole deck, I'm just going to put them to 4. Alright, hit us with the mites. Since they can't block anyway, we are up to 5 poison. We're going to play a Duelist of Deep Faith. 1 more card in hand to prevent the flying damage. We'll see if it works here. Could play a Mobilizer pre-combat in case it's a flash flyer, but there are none of those in the format, so I'm just going to attack. I guess I could play around a combat trick that gives reach, but I don't think there's one of those either. There's like Titanic Growth for +4/+4. There's the +2/+2 hexproof thing. Yeah, alright. We are now 4-1 as we head into game 5. This is already actually overperforming how I thought this sealed pool would do by quite a bit, so not a bad start at all. 4-1 heading into round 5. Here we are for game 5 with Prophetic Prism. We can hit whatever colors of mana we need. We could even play Dune Mover first if I want to just get a creature on the board. Have a natural white source, which is possible. I probably will, because I am going to want to hit a 4th land, so especially if I just hit some non-land draws here, we can Dune Mover for a land on top. If I immediately draw like a Plains or a Swamp here, Might just not Dune Mover. Okay, we draw a white card. Sure, I'm going to Dune Mover first. So we actually have a creature on board in the early game. Grab the plains. We've got a lot more cards. They're going to need the natural white mana than the natural black. And there's a Dune Mover from our opponent as well. Grabbing a mountain. Offer the trade here or hold off on blocks. I think I'll get aggressive and offer the trade. I'm going to play a 3-5 soon enough, which is just going to blank that. And they're just going to take the trade. Just play a Prism, draw a card, see what we've got. Another land for us. Natural black source. It's going to allow us to sacrifice our Annihilating Glare. Alright, they're on 3 colors here, so they pretty likely are going to have removal that can get rid of Takathal. The easiest color would be just white removal. But we'll see. Lattice Blade Mantis, that's a little scary. Probably want to kill that. We've got plenty of removal spells to do so. I don't actually like putting Jawbone Duelist on the board against this Cacophony Scamp, because if it ever dies, it can kill the Duelist. So I guess I'm cool to just spend 5 mana to Annihilating Glare here. Rather than play a cheaper removal spell, because the only reason to play a cheaper removal spell would be to follow it up with a Duelist. And I don't actually want to do that with a Scamp on board. Alright, Predation Steward. Yeah, we can just keep using removal spells on anything bigger than Scamp and just outracing them with a 3-5. And our whole game plan here is just, well, if they don't draw removal, we'll just keep killing their biggest threats and hitting them for 3 a turn. Yeah. I kind of like Disruption on Steward. The one problem is there's some cards that care about them having permanence with oil. So if they draw an Oil Gorger Troll or something like that, it would be nice to actually just get the Steward off the board. Could go for the Ossification and hold the Disruption. There's a couple cards that would punish us for that. Some cards that just have good static abilities that will remain even if we disrupt them. Not a lot that I can think of, though, so I think I am going to Ossification here in the interest of shutting off any Oil Gorger Trolls they could have in the future. Argentum Masticore. Well, that is one of the few cards in the entire format that would punish us for that choice, and I guess we lose because we did that. That's really disgusting. That's a super tilting way to... I think that's the only card I could think of that would punish us for playing Ossification instead of Disruption out of red, green, white here. Because now if I disrupt it, they just blow up the disruption with its triggered ability, because we don't stop the activated ability. Or because we only stop activated abilities. I can't believe I'm just going to lose the game because I ossified that. I feel like it plays around more cards to ossify than disrupt, because it plays around Oil Gorger Troll or Urabrask's Anointer. Whereas this plays around just basically Masticore, the rare, which is not very likely. They have any 4-drops in hand, they get to blow up Tekathal. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I guess we lose. 4-2 it is. The play obviously looks bad after they hit the Masticore, but again, I think my reasoning was fine. And if they just had a land in hand, I guess Masticore is still trapped. But they can Infectious Bite, which they couldn't have if I ossified the Masticore. Of course. Now we have the Glare to kill the Masticore. So now I'm just going to 2-for-1 myself to deal with it. Okay, we might still be in this, but barely. Now 2-for-1 myself to kill that thing. Taking 1 damage a turn from Cacophony Scamp, and we'll see who draws better. It's a pretty incredible start to the top deck war from our opponents. 4-4 haste, Toxic 3. Bardiche is A reasonable follow-up, though. Just trade into the atrocity. Opponents only hit 6 lands all game. We're at 7. So fingers crossed on par. We should be hitting some lands soon, running out of gas. Alright, no removal at least, so Bardiche is still chilling. Now a Swooping Lookout is the draw. 11 life to 12 life here. I don't have the mana to play Duelist and put a Bardiche on it, so don't think I play that. If I do put a Bardiche on Duelist, though, then be pretty reasonable to play it. I think I do attack with the 4-3 here. So we got that Vigilance. We hit for 4, alright, we'll take that. I think I keep Bardiche on the Rebel, because if I move it to Lookout, I don't have a good block for Atrocity anymore. Again, if I play Duelist, if I block it, or if it hits me, they just kill Duelist with the Scamp. I just pass there. Please hit some lands, fingers crossed. Please just balance things out, just make it to land number 7 like we have. If they just hit all the way up to 7 lands, then... or I guess 8 lands total drawn, because they do have 1 in their graveyard. And I think we win this game. That's true, they have Steward with the Atrocity. Not good for me. Puts me to 7 poison. They could find some Proliferate victories. Scamp can proliferate if it ever hits us. Another Bardiche is so good. Another Bardiche is so good. Attack both. We hit them for 5 if they don't chump with Scamp. Then we play another Bardiche and a Duelist. They're going to take it all. We're going to play Bardiche Duelist here. I mean, now, even though the Duelist is going to die to Scamp, they're like so definitely dead if we live another turn that we need another blocker to make sure we do. Come on, land 7 and 8. Land 7 and 8, opponent. Buff the Scamp. We block with Duelist so that it doesn't die and shoot us for 1,000,000, and we trade with Atrocity so we don't die to a combat trick. And they scoop them up. Yeah, we just play around a Titanic Growth there so they can't just... If the Scamp gets through, it hits us for 3, then they sack it and deal another 3. And if they had a combat trick there, for one like we killed it, they could also shoot us in the face for a bunch. But I guess I'm going to assume opponent hit land 7 and 8 and just didn't play them or something. That was really close. That was so much closer than it needed to be. I think it's really close. Again, the choice between Disruption and Ossification, it played out really, really poorly for us. I'm just trying to think of anything else in the set that punishes us for playing the Ossification first. Again, there's a lot more commons and uncommons that would trigger off of them having a card with oil on the board. But I guess in the future, maybe we do just hold the Ossification because there are cards like the Masticore with really good triggered abilities. That's legitimately the only card I can think of, though. Red, green, white. I guess there's like the Dominuses have passive abilities. We could have played around the green Dominus or something, but that's a 7-mana card. The white Dominus isn't that big of a deal. It's not a lot of token production. The red Dominus also. I guess the red Dominus or the green Dominus also. So there's like 2 mythics and a rare that we would rather have the Ossification left behind. But again, there's Oil Gorger Troll at common that we would really just want the oil counters off of their board for, and Urbrask's Anointer at uncommon. We'd want the oil counters off their board. The difference is with those cards, we're going to run up into those cards a lot more often, so we generally get more value by playing the Ossification first there. However, we only get punished a little bit for playing Planar Disruption first in that scenario. And then they have an Oil Gorger Troll. Like, they just get a good 2-for-1 going, which is good. That would be bad for us. But it's not getting punished as hard as them having a Masticore that we can't deal with. So maybe even though it's a lot more likely that they play something like Oil Gorge or Troll or Urbrask's Anointer, we should still just play Planar Disruption first, because if they do have Oil Gorge or Troll or Anointer, I just take an extra damage, or they draw like one extra card. Whereas if they do have like the Green Dominus or a Masticore or something, I just probably die. Like, I got pretty lucky that game to not just die to that Masticore, to hit the removal for it immediately afterwards. And the fact that they didn't just have a high enough mana card in their hand to blow up my Planar Disruption immediately. So yeah, I think in the future I will just hold that ossification, because again, it is going to make it so it's more likely that we do get punished a little bit by giving our opponent an extra card draw, giving them an extra damage with Anointer. Like, more often than not, we're giving our opponent some value by not ossifying the oil card. But in the circumstances where they do have something that we need to ossify, it's because that card is completely insane. Like, the only cards with good triggered abilities like that we would need to exile are cards that are probably going to kill us, like Masticore and the Domini. So, yeah, I think in hindsight, obviously in hindsight, the worst decision, because we knew 100% after we'd seen it that they have a Masticore. So in hindsight, yeah, wrong decision. But I think even without hindsight, in future games, I'm probably going to go for just Planar Disruption first. Because, again, the few occasions where they will have some rare or mythic with good triggered abilities, they're going to be really, really nasty triggered abilities that will potentially win the game through a disruption. So, all right, definitely a learning moment there, that game. But we'll take it. We're 5-1. We're definitely getting at least some gems back out of this run, which again, can't be unhappy with that. I don't think the sealed pool is incredible, so at least getting some gems back is pretty great. We've only got one loss under our belts so far, so we are still in it. Still competing, trying to get to those 7 wins here. Heading into round number 7, 5-1. Alright, this hand is reasonable. We have all of our colors of mana. We have a Malcator's Watcher on turn 2. If our opponent starts with a Dune Mover or something, we'll be pretty happy with that card. And we've got an Ossification for an early threat. Very keepable hand. Double Swamp's a little awkward as our least represented color. But we only have one card in our whole deck that needs double blue or double white that badly. We'd obviously like to be able to play like 2 white cards in one turn or 2 blue spells in one turn, but shouldn't be that painful. Turn 1, Evolving Adaptive. Oh no, the literal best 1-drop in the whole format. Spooky. We do draw into a Swooping Lookout at least, so if they don't play a 2-mana creature, we might be okay, but Evolving Adaptive is basically a 1-mana 3/3 or 4/4, because it just keeps getting bigger every time they play any creature, and then they can proliferate onto it, and it's just a really, really busted card in this format. To the point where I think I'm probably supposed to just ossify it here. So I'm going to do that, go for Swamp Ossify, and then turn 3 Eye of Malcator. Because otherwise we're just taking 1,000 damage off that card throughout this game. Alright, now we can play an Eye of Malcator and get some scrying going. Tons of artifacts in the hand, so we don't need to scry into another one of those. I do kind of want to hit a land for Bardiche, but I don't want to hit like a 6th land. I don't want to flood out that badly, and I have Malcator's Watcher and Prophetic Prism drawing me another card, potentially hitting another land. I think I'll take the Glare here and just play like Watcher Prism next turn for some setting up some card draw. If I don't hit land 5 on turn 5, that's okay. Alright, Spore Singer's fine, now that they don't have an Oil Gorger on board, or an Oil Gorger, an Evolving Adaptive on board. That's okay. Let's play our Prism here. I'll probably play Prism and Watcher in the same turn. Yeah, definitely if I draw a Mobilizer, because now I have 2 more artifacts to play 2 more turns after this. I can keep playing nonsense later to trigger the Eye of Malcator. Alright, hit them for 6. They are at 16 now. We'll play the Malcator's Watcher. We might have to start immobilizing the long legs, which is weird. Alright, opponent's still on 3 mana here. They are going to keep chipping at us with their Vigilant Spore Singer. We have hit the 5th mana. Do I just play Bardiche then? I feel like I just play Bardiche then. Send in the homies. Hit for another 4. They're down to 12 now. Facing 2 4-power attackers next turn. They have hit their 4th mana, their 4th land. We've got an immobilizer and a glare to deal with whatever they're playing here. We can move Bardiche over to one of our flyers, which could be pretty good. Okay, so they play Mantis. Got a Terramorphic Expanse, so I can immobilize... I can go ahead and glare the Mantis, sacking Prophetic Prism, then play Immobilizer to make Eye of Malcator a 4/4, and just like tap down a Spore Singer here, or tap down the Long Legs. They get a chump block with Spore Singer, then we tap down Long Legs again next turn. I think I do just keep the pressure on them here and just blow up Mantis instantly. Feel like that is the play. And immobilize their blockers. Yeah, so we can tap Long Legs and all they can do is a chump block here. Take a ton, and then we tap a creature next turn as well. We can expanse for another island, so if we draw Tekkathal, we've got the double blue. And alright, they're at 2 life. With an immobilizer to tap their 1 reach creature and a Bardiche to put on a flyer, that's pretty much guaranteed lethal, and they just tap out for a Spinoderm, and they are dead on board. Tap the Long Legs, send in the squad. I've even got an Anoint now. But we'll just be a little nice here and just go for the onboard lethal. And we're 6-1 now. We are 1 win away from getting a 7-win run in our first attempt of the Phyrexia All Will Be One sealed arena open with, again, a sealed pool that's like solid. I guess just having a mountain of removal spells is the right thing to do here, because no matter what, we have at least a 6-win run here, getting 2,500 gems back out of the event. So we're going to compete as much as possible. We're heading into the final boss now, 6 wins and 1 loss. Pretty great mana here. We don't have any interaction in the hand, which I'm not a fan of, and we can't actually play Tekkathal on 4, but I think with a turn 2 Duelist, turn 4 Bane of Bladehold, it's still a keep. Close to a mulligan. If our opponent's hand is good, they are on the play, they could just beat us down, but I think this is a solid enough start to not mulligan here. So Terramorphic turn 1 from them. Gonna pull out a Forest. We've got an Immobilizer for late game again. Excellent card. No turn 2 play from our opponents. We'll drop our Duelist to Deep Faith. Now we have a Bardiche for late game. Lots of good late game here. They are just going to planar disrupt the Duelist. Fair enough. Play a Fair Basilica and pass. And go Swamp, Bane of Bladehold next turn. 4 mana. They do have an Indoctrination Attendant. They have their own 3/4. Pick up the planar disruption? Sure. Very cute. Very cute. We'll play the Rhea Ivor, Bane of Bladehold, and pass the turn. They get to pacify them, but then we can Annihilating Glare, and we still have like Tekkathal to play later. Yeah, that's fine. We still get the passive ability, which is pretty good. We've got a Canker Bloom against potential Immobilizers or artifact-based removal. I don't like seeing a Canker Bloom here. That makes things a little awkward. Because now if I play Bardiche, they might Canker Bloom the Bardiche. Guess I still have a 2/2 off of it, so 5 mana make a 2/2, kill a Canker Bloom. It's probably fine. Not incredible. 4 mana kill a Canker Bloom is bad, though. We don't want to play Immobilizer here. So our options are Bardiche or Glare. With Glare, we could sack Rhea, but I've got nothing else to play except, I guess, the Jawbone Duelist. I could play Duelist and then Glare, sacking the Bane of Bladehold. Doesn't feel super worth it. I think I just play the Bardiche here and let them have a Canker Bloom target, because we have better Canker Bloom targets later, potentially. And yeah, Rhea can keep doing the passive ability here, the triggered ability. Okay, play their own Mirren Bardiche. Serum snares the draw. So we can snare their token, which is pretty nasty. Might be on snare their token attack with the 4/3 here. I could also snare my own Bane of Bladehold. I think I'm going to just snare the token, though. Threaten to get 4 mites. Feels pretty good. And then we play a duelist this turn. They are going to trade the Canker Bloom into the token, which means we get to keep the Bardiche itself to put onto a double striker later. Feels good. Flensing Raptor. Not great for us. Guarantee they get some toxic in here, some poison damage in. So we're at 18 and 1 poison. If they get any proliferate, that's going to start going wild. Ossification. Probably for Jawbone Duelist here. No, for the Duelist of Deep Faith. So we get to have a double striking 3-power Jawbone Duelist? I guess it just trades into Attendant. Could Bardiche on Duelist and then use Glare, sack Re-Evor on Attendant? They have no blocks this turn, they take 6, and then they need to find removal for Duelist quickly. Feels legit. And then I have Immobilizer for later still. It actually feels pretty legit here. I'm gonna go for it. They could Bardiche up their own Raptor, but then we can just start immobilizing. Because that'll be 4 of their 6 mana here. Play a Tyranax Atrocity. Well, I hate to see that. That's a lot of poison. Yeah, I don't really have blocks. I guess I could trade with Atrocity. I don't think it's worth it, though. We got a 5 poison. Could I have Malcator to try to scry into the second blue? I think it's better to just drop the Immobilizer and get ready to try to take over with that. If they don't draw removal here, I think we can outrace with Immobilizer Duelist. Yeah, we're threatening like 6 damage a turn. They are going to Bardiche the Raptor, so both of the creatures are threatening 4 damage. The Atrocity's threatening 3 poison though, and we're at 5, so I think I tap Atrocity here, but then Raptor's up for blocks. But it's only 3 toughness, so it can't block Duelist well, so yeah, we tap Atrocity. Even though Raptor's up for blocks, it doesn't block well without a combat trick. Okay, Dune Mover. Dune Mover probably chumps here as the play. There's a Prism. With Prism we can play Tekkathal now. Seems very legitimate. I guess they could double block to kill Duelist, but that's fine. I think we still want a Mobilizer on blocks. Like if they double block, we kill both, but they kill Duelist. Yeah, this is cool with me. Because we still have a Mobilizer, now we'll have a Tekkathal to slap up. To suit up, I should say. Slap up. I don't know what kind of words come out of my mouth sometimes. It just happens. It's awkward. Tyranax Rex. Okay, so I guess I lose. Cool. Yeah, I mean, Ward 4. Alright, Phyrexia will be one. I see how it is. Just wanted to remind me what format I'm playing real quick. That's obnoxious. Alright. Next final boss, then. So they just trample over and hit me for 4 toxic no matter what. Next final boss, then. Alright, here we are in the final boss. This is the last game of Magic of the day. No matter what happens, we are 6-2. It's a little sketchy. We have Duelist into Disruption no matter what. If we can find a black source, the hand is great, and we do have like 6. We got double Dune Mover, Expanse, double Swamp, Prophetic Prism. Draw any blue cards, they're blanks. I draw any more planes, they're blanks. I kind of feel like I have to mulligan though, because so many draws are blanks at this point with this hand. If I draw just the exact right lands, it's going to be great, but if I draw islands, or I draw blue cards and don't draw islands, there's just too many things that can go really wrong with this. I'm going to take the mulligan. Oh, not like this. That's unkeepable, and this is basically my first hand with 2 less cards in it. I guess I have Dune Mover this time, which is good. Yeah, I think I Dune Mover for Swamp, and this actually is probably a safer hand than my initial 7. We'll see what happens here, but it's not looking good. Our opponent's on the play, and we had to mold to 5. Again, I don't think we had much choice but to go for those moles there. Kind of like just killing the Mirror Convert, keeping them off of mana here. We'll still have an Anoint for later. I guess if they do use it for mana, they take some extra damage, and we can just Ossify or Anoint whatever they play. Yeah, maybe try to get aggressive here, play Duelist. So we are going to run out of cards before them on the mold to 5. They'll try to leverage just an aggressive position, potentially. Yeah, now I can Ossify the Lattice Blade Mantis, and now I don't have to Dune Mover, because I've got all the mana I need. X-Gold Halberd is the play. Doesn't block particularly well, which is fine. Charforge is pretty great. We'll probably have to anoint that. And then they don't have a good block for Duelist. Already dumped pretty much their whole hand, so it's a little late to kill Convert now, but if we did kill it earlier, they couldn't have played the Lattice Blade Mantis. But then they would have just played Charforger a turn earlier, and then Halberd after that. They still would have had good plays, so I think it worked out fine that I didn't just immediately kill Convert. But yeah, this is the point where we start getting punished really hard for the Mold to 5, because we are completely out of gas. We need to draw well from this point on. Or we're just going to have a really sad 6-1 into 6-3 today. Lookout is something here. I mean, nothing else can do anything, so... we are on the lookout, and then cycle the Fair Basilica. At least we get to keep chipping in for 1 damage a turn with that. If we can hit a Bardiche or something, that would be phenomenal. Yep, keep taking 2 a turn. Got a Resistance Skywarden, that is very big. Alright, Basilica, what do we got? Eye of Malcator. The Scry is interesting. Bardiche is great, but I've just sacked my 5th land. Oh dear. Alright, Eye of Malcator, what do we have? Land. Well, that's hilarious. I can't do anything against the Sky Warden. We're actually dying really quick to their menace threats now. Yeah, especially with First Strike Trample. I'm gonna just take the trades we can at this point. Take 8 damage here, unless I double block for a double chump. It looks like we're pretty dead here. Alright, Eye of Malcator can't block anyway, so that sends in. Lookout has Vigilance, so that sends in, but everything else we need blockers. They're down to 7. We put in work. We put in work for the Mold to 5 on the draw. You can't not say that. Completely tapped out here, so if opponent's going for lethal, like, they've got it. Probably concerned about a potential crackback if we can find a way to survive their attack. but I mean, if they attack with everybody, I can double block Skyward and block Convert, take like 4. If they have any combat tricks, we're just already dead, because the Hex Gold equipment gives them trample. So we just die to any combat trick in the book, or any removal spell in the book. Alright, yeah, we're dead. All I can do is double block Skyward, and if they give it trample, I'm just dead. Because I double block it, take 2 there, plus 6 from the other cards. If I double block Punisher, then I take 8. Like, I take 8 no matter what I do here. Yeah. They had the removal. I don't know what took them 5 years to do that, but we are dead. I guess they had to double check. They're probably on their final boss as well, so fair enough. Definitely gotta really make sure that you counted up correctly here, because if they died on the crackback, that would have been brutal for them. Like, I top deck an artifact, play it on board, and then just kill them with Eye of Malcator and all these. So they wanted to play it nice and safe, make sure they had lethal on board, but yeah, they've got well over lethal. Block like that, I take 2 there, plus 6 from the rest of the board. Block like that, take 9. Or block like that, take 9. Well, pretty massive bummer to end off the Arena Open Day 1 event. But on the plus side, this is a lot better than I thought the sealed pool was going to do. I am actually really happy with how I built the sealed pool and generally how I played today. I think I did everything I could. Played it out to the best of my ability here, and got really close. The biggest bummer of the day definitely goes to the Tyrannax Rex, and that loss. That loss was just a massive bummer. The other 2 losses were fine, like pretty nice back and forth games, but just Tyrannax Monstrosity to end that. Tyrannax Rex, like basically they're only out there. Just immediate lethal me when I had a really good lock on the board against almost anything else. That was really sad. Outside of that though, deck overperformed a lot. Again, I think it was just kind of an awkward pile of cards, but just having a ton of removal worked really well. We put all of the strongest cards in our sealed pool into a deck, which is what you want to do. Tamiyo's Immobilizer being really good. Tekkathol being quite the solid flyer a lot of the time. Eye of Malcator getting a lot of damage in, and the Bane of Bladehold even making a lot of mites, getting a lot of damage in some of those games as well. Plenty of nice 2-mana creatures. Overall, again, pretty happy with my performance. I think the deck was built pretty well, and the games were played pretty well. We just can't win them all. I don't think this was an incredible sealed pool. Didn't think that the sealed pool had any chance of getting a 7-win run until we were 6-1. And then it turns out it did. It had a really good chance as long as our opponent didn't have a Tyrannax Rex in hand. So that was the saddest game. But again, can't win them all. We definitely won some games with bombs of our own. Not quite as bomby as that, but some Tekkathols and Bane of Bladeholds doing some good stuff. Immobilizer's putting in a lot of work, so balances things out. We definitely beat some people with some rares and mythics as well. We definitely should lose to some rares and mythics. We actually beat some of the scarier rares and mythics in the format as well. Beating an Archfiend of the Dross was great. Beating a Glissa was awesome. This deck really overperformed. I think it won some matchups that it had no business winning. So we'll take it. 6-3. Great run from the deck, but unfortunately, we are not going to day 2 on this run. We're just going to get half our entry fee back. These events, massively expensive. 5,000 gems. And even if you go 6-3, you're still down 2,500 gems. So it does always feel bad to not get the 7-win run, especially when we get as close as we did. But what can you do? That's magic, baby. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, just stick around on the channel. As always, you can like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon in the link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.